with a disability, and she's going to tell about her experiences. Linda, thank you.
I would like to thank Deputy McGrath for the opportunity to speak this evening. I would like to talk about my son Anthony, who has the label of autism and is non-verbal. But because he is non-verbal does not mean he has nothing to say. He can, however, communicate very effectively with communication aids, including Lightwriter, which he uses very well, supported by trained staff who he trusts. We were advised by HSE disability managers that there was no suitable placement for Anthony, and therefore we were only offered some respite, which gave Anthony no quality of life. We realised that we had to think outside the box, and we looked to the UK for guidance. We have friends in the UK for over 10 years who are carrying out family governed services, which gives their children with disabilities the opportunities to carry out a life of their choosing, rather than the life that professionals who hardly know them think that they should lead. We believe that the person with disability should be heard and at the centre of everything. However, despite the fact that it has been introduced into our Constitution that people with a disability have the right to be heard, that right has not been implemented into Irish law yet, and we would urge the Minister to pursue this issue and make it part of Irish law. In 2008, we invited 2 psychologists who believe in independent living over from the UK to create a plan, otherwise called a PATH. They put together a plan by holding a family and extended family meeting with our son at the heart of the discussion, to create a plan to reflect where Anthony was then in his life, the dream/goal, and how to achieve his goals. Following this, I attended workshops where I was paired up with a professional from Cheshire, Ireland, and together with Anthony's input, we put a support plan together for Anthony. We presented these documents to two HSE disability managers who were impressed and agreed that we would be a pilot programme. Service agreements were signed and we set up a company specifically for this purpose, with Cheshire being the host agency. From 2010 to 2012, Anthony was living the life of anyone his age. Anthony helped us to choose his staff, so he was with people he liked. Staff was trained up in his communication, which opened up a whole new world for Anthony. During these 2 years, Anthony was very much a member of his local community. He was a gym member, library member, churchgoer, dined in local restaurants and in canteens in the universities. Anthony had always dreamt of going to university. He attended lectures in Dublin City University twice a week, studying Irish history, and thoroughly enjoyed that experience. In 2012, a new HSE disability manager, Geraldine Murphy, imposed Oisina Tócaíochta Network, ATN, with Martin Naughton, director, on Anthony and her family with no consultation. Funding was taken from Cheshire, and ATN was funded by HSE to support Anthony. ATN refused to listen to Anthony or us, his family. Martin imposed his staff on Anthony, none of which was trained up in Anthony's communication. So Anthony's life from the past 2 years quickly slipped away and everything was taken from him. In 2013, Martin deliberately allowed the lease of Anthony's home to expire, which made Anthony effectively homeless. Martin colluded with Geraldine Murphy HSE to put Anthony into Redwood Institution for a period of 3 months for assessment, even though Anthony had been assessed to death already. Redwood forced Anthony to take medication against Anthony and us, his parents' wishes, against the advice of Anthony's GP. They removed him from his essential gluten and dairy-free diet and denied Anthony his communication and his freedom. Redwood and HSE continued not to listen to Anthony or us, his parents. In Redwood, Anthony was quickly hospitalised by emergency ambulance following 9 seizures, despite the fact that he had no previous seizures and no history of epilepsy. On December 18, 2013, Anthony was denied access to his own case conference, so we had to support Anthony and we did not attend without Anthony. Anthony should have been at the centre of his own case conference. The following day, we were advised that Anthony was being kicked out of Redwood, and the only option we were offered was for Anthony to travel from County Meath to Nua Healthcare in Kildare. We understood this to be a temporary emergency arrangement. HSE had reassured us from the onset that Anthony would be returned to independent living with a broker company who we had been negotiating with when we realised that ATN were totally unsuitable and untrained to support Anthony. Anthony continues to be abused in Nua Healthcare. He is being forced medication against his or her wishes, denied his communication, as Nua refused training in Anthony's communication, removed from his essential gluten and dairy-free diet and denied his freedom. For 1 year, he has consistently asked us to be taken out of Nua, to be returned to his own accommodation near us, his family, in the community he grew up in. He has been hospitalised twice by emergency ambulance in Nua Healthcare. He is being forced to carry out unpaid farm labour Monday to Friday on the Nua farm, which he hates. And Nua have known that from the outset, how much he hates farming. We have been appealing to HSE to listen when Anthony was abused in Redwood and in Nua. It was only after the Ors, the Tracta and Redwood Extended Care Facility abuse was made public that Lee Gath was hired by HSE to be a confidential recipient for people who were and are being abused in disability centres. We are currently in negotiations with Lee, who is communicating on our behalf with HSE, and we remain hopeful that Anthony will be released from Nua institution. There will be workshops for families with disabilities taking place in Galway, Mullingar and Dublin in the coming weeks. ATN will be presenting these workshops on self-directed living along with LEAP and National University of Ireland Galway, each of which have been aware of ATN involvement in Anthony's abuse for many months. We will be attending and protesting outside the Dublin workshop on the 28th of April, telling people that self-directed living is the way forward, whilst warning people of the dangers of getting involved with ATN and Merton Naughton. Keeping silent about abuse colludes with that abuse, and we need to put an end to this by speaking up.